Here comes your national champion.
September 1986. Jim Kropfeld on the Miss Budweiser won the Unlimited Hydroplane World Championship by a scant 31 points. A season-ending victory in Las Vegas was the difference. May 1987. Kropfeld, on the threshold of defending that crown, drove the new Miss Budweiser for the first time. Spirits were high, but an old nemesis of boat racing struck again. Kropfeld was not seriously injured, but the crew had precious little time to repair the boat for the '87 opener. That is next. Columbia Crest Winery presents the 1987 Unlimited Hydroplane Series. Today from Miami, the Budweiser Hydroplane Regatta. Brought to you by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Household Finance Corporation, America's #1 financial services company. And by U-Haul International. Rent it all at U-Haul Centers. This is Miami. It is the month of June and it is hot. The beach, outside of air conditioning, is one of the few means of escape from the heat and humidity. This is Miami, a city which features one of the most dramatic and colorful skylines in the world. This is one of the biggest home ports for tour lines which depart on a daily basis for the Caribbean and the Atlantic. Yeah, this is Miami, best known, however, quite simply for the scenery. Greetings from South Florida. I'm Don Poyer, initiating our 4th year of Unlimited Hydroplane national coverage. There is a term in hydroplane racing that is often talked about. Drivers may not admit it, but it is in the back of their mind, and that is the blowover. It is a part of the folklore of boat racing. In the early 1950s, the Slow-Mo 5 went over on a qualifying run in Seattle, the first highly publicized blowover. There have been many others since. Perhaps the most spectacular, the Pay-In Pack, which did a full 1.5 with John Walters aboard back in the early 80s. Right now we're with the defending national champion, that being Jim Kropfeld of the Miss Budweiser. And as you saw in the opening of our broadcast, Jim did indeed go through a blowover in the first test of the new Miss Budweiser. Jim, a good driver, and you are a good driver, can put it behind you. Have you done that?
You have to, Don. I think any driver, whether it's boats, cars, airplanes, or whatever, you realize in the back of your mind something can happen. It's any racing sport is dangerous. And you put it behind you and you don't even think about it. It's the next, matter of fact, even after they took me to the hospital, it was just in the back of my mind to put it out of there.
Backing up somewhat, what do you remember?
Well, I can remember everything. The first thing I remember is seeing a sky, and then the next thing I remember is I took exactly I hyperventilated a little bit, and I took exactly 4 breaths, and I sucked in some water, and I started choking and gagging, and naturally, as I was upside down yet strapped in, I kind of thought, boy, I'm not going to die this way. And I pushed the mask up tight against my face and turned up the air and blew the water out. And then I released my belt, turned over, and it was dark. And I tried to find my way around and get my bearings. And that probably took about 30 seconds. And after that, I was pretty calm.
Despite the problems you had inside the cockpit, both you and Steve Reynolds have survived major blowovers, violent blowovers. You've all got the 5-point belt system, the good cushion, and again, the enclosed cockpit.
Well, thank heaven for people like Jim Lucero, who started the reinforced cockpit. And then Bernie came along with the Miss Budweiser, and we enclosed it and put the air supply in there. And without those people like that willing to dedicate their time and money to the sport, we wouldn't be where we are today. But after looking at the cockpit the way it is, I can't imagine why we didn't do this 10, 20 years ago.
We mentioned Steve Reynolds. Jim Henrik is with him right now. They have just qualified in that brand new boat. Okay.
Don, we've got a lot of excitement down here in the pits right now. A brand new boat, Cellular One, gets in about 4 o'clock this morning. Race day, qualifies at an unofficial 1:14. Steve Reynolds, that's amazing.
Piece of cake, piece of cake. I mean, we only drove 72 hours to get here at 5 in the morning to put the boat in the show.
Well, you know, you've got some challenges now. You know that the Budweiser with the turbine and the Miller American, they've been testing more than you. How do you feel about that?
You know, those are things I don't have an awful lot of control over, Jim. We went out to just put the boat in the show. Now we'll start fine-tuning it. We got a ways to go yet. I'm pleased. 114 right out of the box. Not bad.
Not bad. Now, let's check on the starting lineups for Heat 1A, and here's Don Poyer. Don?
All right, thanks, Jim. That now means we have a field of 6 boats for this first race of 1987, and here's the rundown for Heat 1A. First of all, the defending national champion, the Miss Budweiser, with Jim Kropfeld aboard, qualifying at a new course record at 128.9 miles per hour. Next, the brand new boat, Steve Reynolds aboard the Cellular One, just arriving early this morning, qualifying at 113.6. And finally, the Pantry Pride, with Todd Yarling driving out of Hanover, Indiana, at 108.834. Now let's go back to Jim for the rundown of Heat 1B. James?
All right, Don, now let's check the action at Heat 1B here at Miami's Marine Stadium. Chip Hanauer, having problems with the Miller American earlier, has checked in at 115.106. The Miss Madison, the whole set Miss Madison, driven by Ron Snyder at 104.5, while Jack Schaefer in the U-15 just under the wire at 95.8. Every heat in elimination and the final will all be 6 laps around a 1 2/3 course. All right, Don.
Jim, there are 2 important factors the race teams will have to consider today. One, the salt water, of course. That especially for the teams that are powered by turbine engines. Secondly, the heat. Temperature in the mid-90s. Humidity level is very close to that, too. Heat 1A is coming up right after this timeout. Welcome back to Miami. Our first heat features 2 boats that have never competed before. A brand new Budweiser. Pantry Pride has been around. Todd Yarling will be driving it. But also Steve Reynolds in the Cellular One and a brand new boat built by Jim Lucero. The course, you might be familiar with it. Smallest on the circuit at only 1 2/3. A starting line near the pits and then the finish line directly in front of the stands. And for the all-time winningest owner, a silver anniversary. Bernie Little, how does it feel? You're starting your 25th year right now.
Yeah, Don, we sure are, and my heart is in there pumping to beat the devil, and I'm sure glad.
Take good care of that heart.
Yeah, I really am, but you can see what it does to me, and I know we're going to have a good day of racing here with Miss Budweiser.
Good luck today, Bernie.
Thank you, Don.
1 year ago, on a rainy Sunday day in Miami, Jim Kropfeld got his 13th victory, and Bernie Little got his 54th, and the beat went on. As far as the drivers for Heat 1A in 1987, Jim Kropfeld going against an old friend, Steve Reynolds, in his new boat, Cellular One, and Todd Yarling out of Hanover, Indiana. They're the 3. The Cellular One and Steve Reynolds, that boat right out of the box, the wrapper's still on it practically. Having problems after qualifying this morning at 113 miles per hour. We'll see if it can get started in time. Here are the 3 boats, the brand new Miss Budweiser, the Pantry Pride with Todd Yarling, qualifying at better than 108 miles per hour, a much better showing than last year. And here we come for our first preliminary heat in 1987. Here are the officials counting down. It's a legal start, and Todd Yarling with an outstanding start in lane number 1. Only a 2-boat heat right now. We've got the Pantry Pride and Todd Yarling bouncing along as he comes into the first turn. The Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld, of course, taking his time right now. Sure, he knows he's got the horsepower to compete and certainly to possibly go by the Pantry Pride, but he'll be easy on his equipment, and I don't think he wants a saltwater rooster tail in front of him. Turbines don't like salt water, we know that. This boat performing much better here in 1987 than it did in 1986. Todd Yarling a year older, this being a brand new Miss Budweiser boat. They seem to have the saltwater problems licked, where the other teams are still trying to straighten it out. And look how the Budweiser is already moving up on Todd Yarling, staying safely to the outside on this small 1 2/3 course. Coming around to complete lap number 1, Yarling and Kropfeld. Yarling on the inside for the Pantry Pride, and the Budweiser takes over the lead here after the first lap. The boat's going at about 102 miles per hour on their average on this small course. You won't see the lightning speeds here like you will on faster courses that are much longer, like Evansville, Indiana, where it's a 2.5 or 2 mile course, Madison, Indiana, or Seattle, or Tri-Cities, Washington, where you have some incredible speeds when they come out west about 5 races into the season. But the Budweiser, after a lot of testing and adjusting, coming back in to retake the lead, going down the back chute. But again, the rebuilt sponsors, the rebuilt system on that Todd Yarling boat, the Pantry Pride, out of Hanover, Indiana. Jim Saddam, the owner, performing very, very well. And Todd Yarling as a driver has matured greatly over last year when they went through so much frustration. And he is holding his own as Jim Kropfeld still stays safely on the outside. Jim and Nancy Saddam cheering on their driver as they come down the main straightaway. Jim Kropfeld, the winner here in 1986, as well as 3 years ago. And in the meantime, it is Todd Yarling holding on and hoping to get 300 points. It is very important to pick up as many points as you can here in Miami. Give you a great start for the 1987 season. It paid off for the Budweiser last year when they went on to win the national title by a mere 31 points. With this new Budweiser boat, beautiful design, the air intake above. Of course, they had the blowover at the beginning of the year in May when they tested, but they have settled this boat down. Steve Reynolds, they've got a lot of testing to do, but that is going to be a bullet before the year is over with. This boat, they tamed it down, as I said, and Jim Kropfeld came out Sunday morning, this morning, and set a new course record at better than 128 miles per hour. So that tells you what kind of faith he has in this boat and what the crew has done. So the Budweiser looking very good here in Heat 1A as Kropfeld holds on to the lead against Todd Yarling in the Pantry Pride. Average speeds again around 102 to 105 miles per hour on this tight course, short straightaways. Normally the boats with the most horsepower can go up to about 160 miles per hour before they've got to hit the brakes, you might say, as they go into the entrance buoy and around the turn. Budweiser with a rooster tail lead, and he will get 400 points. If it will keep running and battling this saltwater situation, he'll be able to come in and be in good shape for the final. Bernie Little coming into his 25th year. Here comes the sprint for the finish as Todd Yarling is now moving up on the inside. The Budweiser will get the win, but it'll be close. Budweiser winning Heat 1A. Good performance by the Bud and the Pantry Pride, and still looking for points is Steve Reynolds in the Cellular One. Let's go down to the pits.
Okay, not too bad. First time out, 400 points. And what do you feel about that, Bernie?
Well, I feel fantastic. Is there any better way to start off your 25th year and to have Jim Kropfeld and Miss Budweiser win the first heat?
Jim, when you knew the Cellular One was dead in the water, did you know?
Yeah, I saw Steve come out, and Lauren told me on the radio they pulled to the infield, and I saw him there. I thought maybe they would bring us, Todd and I, back in and call the heat, but they let us run, and things were fine. Budweiser ran.
I'm sure that you're going to see him this race and the rest of the races.
Well, I'm sure Steve's going to be there. You know, this is our first time in the water today, so they're tough. They'll be there.
Winner, Miss Budweiser, Jim Kropfeld. Don?
What a turnaround from last year, you guys. Todd, nice going.
Thanks a lot. You know, everybody worked real hard this winter, and we did our homework and read a lot of books, and it paid off.
Now tell me the truth. Was that a little bit of a nitrous run down that last turn and coming down the last chute?
Well, I know. We realized we don't have the Budweiser equipment, so I thought I'd just lay behind him, try to see if he was going to finish, and looked like he's going to finish, so I gave it all I had. I almost got him.
Good finish, Todd. Nice going.
Thanks a lot.
And with the Miami skyline as our backdrop, we'll return for Heat 1B after this. Welcome back to Miami. We're just minutes away now from Heat 1B, and when I say Heat 1B, the heat is a major problem, I know, but you ran well yesterday and much better than you have in the past down here. Are you encouraged now?
Well, I think we're encouraged if you look back at our track record here. We're not very encouraged if you look at how fast the competition's going, but you've got to crawl before you can walk, before you can run, and what we'd like to do is see if we can go out and run a heat without overheating the engine, without compressor stalling it. Then we'll go from there.
Not so much high speeds, but be conservative because we got a long season ahead of us then.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a real unique situation here in Miami. We've never done very well here, but we've always been able to come out of here after disasters and get right back into the championship tussle. So, you know, a race doesn't make a season, and nevertheless, though, we want to give it our best shot here.
And it's great to see this man back racing again, Ron Snyder, out of New Bremen, Ohio. You might remember last year, Evansville, Indiana. Ron was thrown from the Holset Miss Madison hydroplane coming around the second turn. He suffered kidney and back injuries. Also, his face was cut and bruised badly. But he came back and is racing in '87. Back in Miami, this is Jack Schaefer Jr., driver of the U-15, hosing down the cockpit. I'm not going to ask him why. Maybe he just doesn't like hot vinyl. Here are the drivers for Heat 1B. Again, Chip Hanauer and the Miller American. Ron Snyder and the Holset Miss Madison. Finally, Jack Schaefer Jr. and the U-15. Miller American and Chip Hanauer aboard, like the Cellular One and the Budweiser, has a new boat campaign in 1987, but they have got problems. Again, oh, look at that salt water going up and over the deck into the engine. The three boats set for Heat 1B. Looks like it's going to be an old-fashioned race with two-piston engine-powered boats, and they're conventional style with the drivers sitting behind the engines. A step back into the 50s and 60s, but these are quality folks and quality programs. Here we go. Ed Cooper's boat, the U-15, and Jack Schaefer aboard, both boats legal, and Schaefer with the lead as Ron Snyder is on the inside in the Holset Miss Madison down the main straightaway for the first time. The Miller camp, Fran Muncie, the owner. Obviously some frustration, and they can't wait to get on to the rest of the circuit where there's some fresh water waiting for them and not this salt stuff. In the meantime, Ron Snyder has taken the lead as they go down the back chute and into the second turn. Snyder, we talked about him being thrown from the boat in Evansville, Indiana in 1986. One way to combat that, they have given Ron a seat belt. Stirrups going over his legs and then across his waist, keeps him into the cockpit, gives him a better feel of the boat, as a matter of fact. He said it feels so much better, understands the boat, can read it better now that he goes down the straightaways and doesn't have to worry about holding on and still competing. Ron Snyder in first place in the Holset Miss Madison. That boat gone totally through last winter, a new deck, a totally new left sponson, the bottom redone, new systems. That boat is one of the winningest in the history of hydroplane racing. And right now he has a rooster tail lead over Jack Schaefer in the U-15. Snyder, newly married. Says he courted his girl for 7 years before he finally popped the question. It's a good thing he drives boats faster than he courts women. Jack Schaefer in second place in the boat that used to be owned by Chuck Hickling, called the Tempest. He's in second place. Ed Cooper out of Madison, Indiana, the owner. Ed Sr. and Ed Jr. This boat using a turbocharged Allison engine. As far as Jack Schaefer, the boat he is driving, the U-15, is a supercharged Allison. Jack Schaefer has a good description. He says, these are the engines that won World War II. There's Jack there out of Irvine, California. Like many of the drivers, not a full-time racer in the Unlimiteds. He has his own company out in California selling executive jets. Yep, he's qualified and licensed to fly a number of different types of airplanes. Snyder out of New Bremen, Ohio. He stepped up, used to live in Piqua, Ohio for many years, and now that he is married and has moved his company to a new city, he is in first place here in Heat 1B in Miami. Second place, oh, you can see Schaefer bounced around, somehow stays in the cockpit and comes around the second turn. Here in Miami, Ron Snyder calls this a driver's course. It's a great equalizer. It's so small at only 1 2/3 miles. Short straightaways. Starts are critical. Positioning even more critical on a small course like this. And everybody says Snyder is one of the best at starting a race. Jack Schaefer driven that boat for many, many years, as we said, even back in the days when he was first starting, driving for Chuck Hickling. Supercharged Allison in that boat, the turbocharged in this particular boat, the Holset Miss Madison, the Holset Company, also involved in other forms of motorsports racing, providing turbos. Now they're in the unlimited hydroplane business as they have for the past couple of years. Ron Snyder coming down will pick up 400 points, and the winner of Heat 1B, Snyder, the Holset Miss Madison. 2 out of 3 boats finish. Schaefer and Snyder have a good time, 400, 300 points. And now let's go to Jim Henrik down in the pits.
Ronnie Snyder, Holset Miss Madison. You always do well in Miami. This has to be your course.
I love this course. It's the smallest course. It's a driver's course, so yeah, I love it.
4 boats have finished now in the 2 heats. 3 have been from the town of Madison, Indiana. Who's going to get the bragging rights?
Well, let's repeat what happened in New York last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Attrition, as usual in Miami, and you did a good job today. You get 300 points right off the bat.
There's nothing wrong with that, you know. We're pleased with it so far.
Well, it's a little different now. You got longer responses, longer riding surface, a little better ride.
Yeah, it's a much better ride. We've got one thing to fix. You probably heard it popping a little bit down the straightaway, and we're a little too rich on the ADI, so we'll adjust that down and be a little quicker in the next heat.
ADI being the coolant, basically.
Right, the anti-detonation injection, which is a water alcohol system that cools the charge down at high manifold pressure.
That's impressive. I like anti-detonation
injection. Don't ask me what it is. I read the manual.
I guess I'll have to do a little homework. To the northeast, Miami Beach and the Atlantic Ocean. This is the Continental High Performance Corner. A closer look at the fastest race boats in the world. While Jim Kropfeld sucks on some ice cubes to stay cool, he also has a liquid cool suit inside. Other drivers believe in other systems.
Chip, the other drivers with enclosed canopies have gone with a cool suit. You didn't. Air conditioning. Why?
Well, we feel it's safer. When we tried to get Jim Kropfeld out of his boat after the accident, the two lines that put the fluid into the suit and back into the cool system that's mounted in the boat hung on to him, and we had to cut those lines to get out. We feel that the less umbilical cords there are to the boat, the better chance we have to get a driver out safely. So we've gone with air conditioning.
Steve Reynolds, like Kropfeld, feels this system developed by Dennis Carlson of Michigan is the best way to go.
Steve, does this thing work?
I'll tell you what, Don, without this, I think the cockpit temperature, to me, would more than likely be right around 130 or 40 degrees. Circulating, the cold water through this and through the piece that goes around inside your helmet, around your head, when we had gone down in the heat out there, I was comfortable. I just plugged the cool suit in, sat in the deck, and laid in the sun.
Now you've got Chip down here who says, I'd rather have air conditioning because I don't have as many tubes if I got to get out in a hurry.
A matter of preference. If he's concerned about getting out, mine are located in such a place where it's not going to be a problem. They have quick disconnects on them. They snap in and out very easily. If that's his concern, that's his choice not to wear them. Frankly, I wouldn't drive with that one.
You don't have them on the arms.
No, I really don't think it's necessary. Where I really feel the heat is especially around the head. And with this cap going on, it's almost a rush of cold water when it goes. It can give you a headache.
You're a knockout with it on, too.
Thanks, buddy.
Or another way to stay cool is to hang around the pool on the Miami University campus. We'll return to racing right after this. The procedure all drivers must go through prior to the season is checking their flotation devices. Trouble is, drivers like Chip Hanauer, Jim Kropfeld, Steve Reynolds, they really don't need flotation devices because their boats are designed to keep them inside the cockpit, which is virtually unsinkable. Also, they go through physicals where their heartbeat, heart pressure is all checked. But now it is Sunday and time to go for our second go-around in preliminary heats. Here are the three boats. The Miller American is running now along with the two other boats, that being the U-15 and Ron Snyder. Good start. And look who's out in front again, Ron Snyder. In the Holson, Miss Madison. Second place goes to the U-15. Third to Chip Hanauer and the Miller American. Snyder swinging wide on the first turn here on the tight 1 2/3 course. In second place in lane number 1 on the inside is Jack Schaefer Jr. out of Irvine, California. Way back in third, the Miller American. Again, it is Ron Snyder on his favorite course and in his favorite position. First place going down the back chute. Jack Schaefer Jr. out of Irvine in second place. Hanauer out of Seattle in the Miller American with that strange cockpit and canopy. Totally different from the other two boats that have gone with the F-15 or F-16 canopy. Instead, the crew felt they could build a lighter, stronger canopy. Not quite as big as the other boats. And we'll see if it works out as they enter the 1987 season. There's the Miller American out of Seattle. Ron Snyder. First place, already has 400 points today and 300 for Jack Schaefer. So these two boats based out of Madison, Indiana, having a super day on this smaller course. This the last preliminary heat for these three boats. Oddly enough, the three of them drew each other again in the second go-around. We have only 6 boats qualified. Somehow these three are going to dance this time, and likewise the Cellular One, the Budweiser, and the Pantry Pride will meet each other again in Heat 2B. Snyder going down the back chute, though, in first place and in a comfortable position. Jack Schaefer happy to get the points and will make the final very easily now as they go around the north turn. That's the bumpiest part of the course right there. As you go down the back chute, the last half, and then well into the turn, then they come down the main straightaway. Miller American really not going fast enough to be worrying about much turbulence in the water right now. As Schaefer, who has to hold himself in with his left foot, by the way, a right foot on the throttle, that man, Chip Hanauer, strapped in and, of course, has the full canopy on top of him. Hanauer saying he hopes to at least get some points down here, something they have not been able to do. They didn't last year. Snyder, on the other hand, always jumps out to an early national points lead and does well down here in the early stages of the season again on a smaller course, which is a great equalizer between the turbine power and the Allison power or piston engine boats. Ron Snyder calls himself a homebody. Says he gets as much fun working with wood in his wood shop as he does anything else, except when it comes to driving unlimited hydroplanes. He is one of the finest at it. Dreams of someday driving maybe a cab-over boat where he would sit in front of the engine, something he's not done in the unlimited level. Some of the crew from the Holson Miss Madison, Bob Hughes, the team spokesman and owner, and his team is in first place. Jack Schaefer driving for Ed Cooper Jr. and Ed Cooper Sr. out of Madison, Indiana. The boat was bought last year by the Cooper family, moved out from Seattle from Chuck Hickling's shop, and now they drive with the Madison banner. And the Miller American, the boat driven, or rather built by Jim Lucero, designed by Lucero, but the crew did many different things to it over the winter time. As you see Snyder cruising along now, here in the final preliminary heat for Snyder and the Holson Miss Madison. A supercharged stock Allison in the U-15, previously called the Tempest. And the Miller American with Chip Hanauer. Now the water beginning to churn up a little bit more on the tight course as Snyder comes around looking for a perfect day. He has 400 in the first heat, wants another 400 here. He would have 800 for the day, and he's got the checkered flag. First place to Snyder again. And the Miller American has gone dead in the water. No points for the Miller in that second attempt today. So here are the numbers again. Jack Schaefer coming up with another 300 points. 600 for the day, and of course Snyder in the Holson Miss Madison with 800. Now to Jim Hendrick.
Ron Snyder, second straight victory. How about the cockpit temperature? How's the heat behind the engine?
See me sweating?
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's 8 pounds I've lost in 2 heats now.
Would you teach me the secret? I can lose some weight.
Your wife called me and told me to do that.
Listen, coming down, you made a start in second place like you did the first time around. Then before the first turn is over, you're out in front. Is that a strategy, or are you timing your starts that way?
There's no sense in jumping the gun. I'm not going to take a chance, and you know, it's a new race, or a brand new race this year, our first race. I'm just taking my time at it.
800 perfect points going into the final.
Watch me in the final.
Steve Reynolds shaking hands with team owners. Steve Woomer already set for Heat 2B. We'll have that for you after this.
Welcome back to Miami. We have a chance to talk with one man you might say is without a country right now, certainly without a boat. Somewhere in Alabama, the Oboy Alberta was being towed down by owner Jim Harvey, and the boat, or rather the truck, caught fire and was totally destroyed, unable to race. What's the status right now of the boat, George?
The boat's okay, Don. Peel a little paint off the sponsons, a little bit on the cowl, but all of our hardware, all of our engines, our gearboxes, everything from my driving suit to the propellers was in the truck, and the truck was totally destroyed.
What race do you think you'll be able to join the tour? I know Fran Muncie, Bernie Little, a number of people have been helping.
Oh, everybody. You know, the crews are jumping in. We got people working. I know the guys are back getting engines ready right now. I think some of the crews are going to come back with the Toyota truck and pick the boat up and take it back to Seattle, and I'm real confident we're going to make Evansville.
That would be very fortunate indeed. That boat, by the way, used to be the Squire shop. Jim Harvey is now the owner. Let's hope they can get back on their feet very soon. 3 boats now as a record crowd of better than 30,000 will watch Heat 2B, and here we go with the Budweiser with a good start. On the inside is Cropfield. On the outside is Steve Reynolds in the Cellular One. The canopy flies off the Cellular One. Look how high it went up into the air. The Cellular One still running in second place in lane number 2. A rooster tail lead as you see the shot with the Budweiser on the left of your screen. Kropfeld with 16 career victories in the unlimited level. The canopy floating, part of the Cellular One boat still sitting out there on the race course, trying to clear it out of the way so they can continue racing. The Budweiser in first place, hugging the buoy is Kropfeld out of Cincinnati, Ohio, entering his 5th full year as an unlimited driver. Kind of strange looking, isn't it? The Cellular One without a canopy. The yellow flag is out as a result of that canopy flying up. I've never seen anything fly so high into the air as that canopy did on the Cellular One. Gives you some idea what the force is like. The Budweiser is slowing down. You can hear the turbine engine winding down. Something gone wrong. I know the Budweiser took a rooster tail from the Cellular One when both Reynolds and Kropfeld were maneuvering for the start. That may be a problem. He may have taken some salt water on the air intake. Todd Yarling and the Pantry Pride goes into first place. Kropfeld trying to restart. Cellular One is dead in the water as well. 3 boats start. We've got 1 running. And like a bandit, Todd Yarling is running into first place and running away from the rest of the field. The Pantry Pride in first place here in Heat 2B going into the second turn. The Budweiser restarting. Kropfeld with his own portable batteries in that boat able to get started. And he will try to at least hold on to second place and get another 300 points. Yarling out of Hanover, Indiana. Never won a hydroplane race, but Jim Saddam, the boat owner for this team of Pantry Pride, said, I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like we're going to win it this Sunday here in Miami. We shall see. That boat is running better than we've ever seen it. It qualified at better than 105 miles per hour, 106 in fact, and you can hear the Budweiser sputtering. They've obviously got a problem with that turbine, the Lycoming engine inside, the T55 engine. The Pantry Pride going down the back chute. Todd Yarling all alone. There you see better than a half a lap lead for the Pantry Pride. Len Slider, the president of Pantry Pride, good supporter of unlimited hydroplane racing, here today as he watches the boat owned by Jim and Nancy Saddam in first place. Todd Yarling looking for his first career unlimited victory. He will be in the final, certainly. Nancy and Jim. Saddam, they never let their feelings high. They never hide them. They keep them right out there in front. You know where they stand every minute of the day, and they are overjoyed with what's going on right now. They strongly believe in piston power for hydroplane racing. Steve Reynolds, his day may be done. He has no points for the afternoon here in Miami. This, an Allison engine, turbocharged. They believe it's a great way to go. Certainly these turbines are expensive, no question about it. And the Budweiser is laboring, to say the least. Todd Yarling, though, coming around the turn near the pits, where the crew will get a good view of the Pantry Pride Sun Supermarkets, a John Steinecker design and build boat out of Detroit. And Todd coming down the main straightaway to pick up 400 points as the winner of Heat 2B. And let the celebration begin with Nancy and Jim Saddam.
Boat racing is fun again.
He's enjoyed himself. Pantry Pride with a 400 points, 7 for the day, now tied with the Budweiser and Cellular One and Steve Reynolds. No luck so far. Down to the pits.
Todd Yarling, you're looking like you're maturing as a driver. You're not making so many rookie mistakes. You made a good start and you're thinking out there.
Yeah, this year I've got to do a lot of thinking. We've had to mature a lot this year. We know we've got quite a bit of power now over what we had last year. And we were a little worried coming down to Florida with all the new turbine boats and everything. But, you know, we wanted to do real well for Pantry Pride, and it looks like it's working for us.
Pantry Pride, U22, the winner of Heat 2B.
You're still in the final. We got time to change for an engine for the final, right?
Well, we're going to have to. We had some, the bleed band was kicking back all the time on me out there, so got a little salt in it, but things like that happen in saltwater.
Things like this can happen on saltwater, freshwater, you name it. Talk about skyrockets and Old Faithful. The cowling of the Cellular One, high into the air. Back in Miami, Don Poyer with Jim Hendrick. That's Jim Lucero on the right with his glasses. He designed and built this boat, the Cellular One, without its cowling right now. Budweiser has problems too.
Is time on your side to get an engine change for the final?
Yes.
we planned on making an engine change anyway, but now with the results of this heat, he took a heck of a salt spray from Reynolds there prior to the race, and I saw some blue smoke come out of the exhaust, and when that happened, I knew then and there it just took more salt than the engine could stand, and one of our secrets was keeping the salt out, and once it came in the front door, there was no way keeping the engine running then. So
Okay, I'll let you get to work.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, let's do what Jack Schaefer's doing. Kick up a leg and watch the Mercury update for this week.
You're looking at the beautiful St. Johns River in downtown Jacksonville, Florida. This setting was the site for this year's season opener for the International Outboard Grand Prix Powerboat Racing Series. Jacksonville went all out for the event, creating a festive atmosphere along the river. A sun-soaked crowd of 25,000 people lined the Riverwalk and Main Street Bridge to witness the city's first ever major high-speed outboard racing event. With the city skyline and Jacksonville shipyards as a backdrop, 22 tunnel-hulled SST-140s gathered to compete for thousands of dollars in prize money and a slot at the World Championship status. The boats ran 40 laps on a tough and challenging 1.25-mile 4-pin course. The SST-140s are one of the newest and most spectacular classes in boat racing. This category is beginning only its third year of competition, but has already attracted hundreds of drivers from throughout North America. The race brought the world's top drivers to Florida. Kevin Miller, a contractor with 6 years of racing experience under his belt, drew the pole position. But he never underestimated his competition. We asked him, who's the man to beat?
I don't think there's any doubt that Harley Wilson will be the main competition. I think he's sitting all the way in the back position, but it won't take him that many laps to be right back up in the front.
Harley Wilson was indeed a force to be reckoned with. The reigning world champion by luck of the draw was in last place on the dock, but his fast lap time of the day before had everyone on edge. In between Miller and Wilson were 20 drivers with all ranges of experience from rookie to world champion. The drivers came from 10 states in Canada, a most impressive field. As the flag dropped on the 40-lap final event, the Mercury-powered stock engines roared to life, shooting Kevin Miller into an impressive lead. But a series of spectacular spills and accidents involved over half the field, keeping the crowd on its feet. By lap 14, the race has been stopped and restarted 4 times, and several of the top drivers found themselves sitting on the bank. Terry Leatherby had to leave the race before the final restart with a hole in his boat, and Harley Wilson, who raced for 9 laps without a cowling after a dramatic crash on turn 3, finally had to call it quits, pulling his boat into the dock area. On the 4th and final restart, young Tim Seabold in his first year of SST racing grabbed the lead, with Ken Davis in second place. But as the race progressed, a determined Jim McKay ground away at the course, passing almost the entire field by lap 29. Tim Seabold held on to second place until the final 3 laps of the race, when he was forced to withdraw, and Ken Davis, who had remained in third throughout the last restart, rocketed into second place. Jim McKay took a well-deserved checkered flag with an average recorded speed of 93.7 miles per hour. The final results reflected the toll the course had on the drivers, with only 10 of 22 finishing. Next, we'll be in Augusta, Georgia for the second stop of the International Outboard Grand Prix Tour. From Jacksonville, Florida, this is Steve Michael reporting.
Here in Miami, this is Jim Kropfeld's map showing him where he wants to be for the start of each race, and it's taped inside the cockpit. The run for the money is upon us. Chip Hanauer, here's Todd Yarling of the Pantry Pride. What a day he has had after picking up a victory in Heat 2B. Here's Ron Snyder, driver of the Wholesome Miss Madison. We've got a visitor in the pits, Bob Seeger.
Now, what brought you down here?
Thunderboats.
You really like these? You already familiar with them?
Oh, I'm from Detroit. We see them on, the Detroit River every year.
So you grew up around these guys?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Gale 5, all these things in the 50s and stuff, yeah.
I remember talking with some of the guys from ZZ Top, and they said, well, these are kind of like our music. I mean, it's in the fast lane.
That's right, speed. Serious speed. There they go.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
5 boats set up for the final here of the drivers. From the Pantry Pride, Todd Yarling's having a super day, and the Miller American Chip Hanauer still looking for points. Jack Schaefer Jr. on the U-15. Ron Snyder, a perfect day so far?
Well, that second heat there when the Budweiser broke down and Sawyer 1 broke down, and those both turbines, maybe the salt water did take their toll. Let's hope it happens in the final, and maybe a piston boat can win it.
Jim Kropfeld, of course, hopes differently of the Budweiser.
I think it's going to be a big shootout.
Second to one, the alternate is now in the infield with Steve Reynolds. That's because the Miller American had completed more laps, so it is in the final heat. Little different, more like a traffic jam as you see all the boats coming around now for the start and the point total so far today. But let's light them up now as they come down for the start on this very small 1 2/3 course. On the inside is the Budweiser, then the Pantry Pride, and the Holson Miss Madison Ron Snyder right on the button for the start. Here they come, racing into the first turn with better than 30,000 people here at Marine Stadium watching on. Budweiser in lane number 1, but Ron Snyder with a slight lead out in lane number 3. With a conventional style boat, he's got to go into the turn a little bit hotter, dig in that skid fin, and then come around the turn. These two have put on great races in the past. The second to one, Steve Reynolds trying to start up the engine of that boat, I would imagine, so that he can stay on the infield and out of the way, because he cannot compete now as being the alternate. With the Budweiser, oh, he almost stuffs the sponsons. Jim Kropfeld recovering nicely aboard the Budweiser, a brand new boat. Sure, they've still got a lot of things to work out in that boat, but it is in first place. The Miller American going dead in the water. We're down to 4 boats here in the final. In first place, the Budweiser. Kropfeld coming down the main straightaway. Average speed right around 100 to 102 miles per hour. The Pantry Pride moving up. And right now in second place is Ron Snyder. You can see him peeking behind the rooster tail of the Budweiser. Kropfeld out of Cincinnati, Ohio. The man behind him, Snyder, out of New Bremen, Ohio. A couple of Ohio natives that really have been in this sport a long time and can do it as well as anybody in the business. Kropfeld in his brand new Budweiser. Snyder wearing a belt for the first time, likes the feel of it, can read the boat better, and is trying to hold on to second place. In third place is Todd Yarling in the Pantry Pride as the Budweiser again comes down the main straightaway. Second place, Snyder. The Budweiser, hard to believe, after going through that blowover in May, less than a month ago, it is performing as well as it is now. It is definitely a force to be reckoned with, but that's no surprise when you have the all-time winningest owner taking care of business here, Bernie Little, holding the Miss Budweiser. Kropfeld looking for victory number 17 in the unlimited ranks. Ron Snyder now being challenged on the inside. Here comes Yarling in the Pantry Pride. Yarling has second place. He's taken it away from Ron Snyder and the Holson Miss Madison. The Budweiser still at first. Todd Yarling looks like about a third of a lap lead now, as just coming past the apex buoy and into the straightaway is Yarling aboard the Pantry Pride. Todd Yarling out of Hanover, Indiana. Jim Kropfeld out of Cincinnati. And you can hear the Budweiser sputtering a little bit. Something wrong with that turbine engine. Back in third place, Jack Schaefer Jr. out of Irvine, California, driving for Ed Cooper. Out of Madison, Indiana, you got 2 Indiana boats competing against Jim Kropfeld out of Cincinnati in the new Budweiser. 3 boats running. The Miller American went dead in the water. The Holson Miss Madison went dead in the water. A battle of attrition now as the Budweiser and Kropfeld try to hold on to first place. This boat knocking on the door, the U-22, the Pantry Pride. The Budweiser not healthy. You can hear it. They call it compressor stalling, a rattling type of noise. And you can hear it there. The Budweiser not healthy. Todd Yarling trying to catch the Budweiser. Here comes the checkered flag. The Budweiser will win it by less than 3 seconds ahead of Todd Yarling and Pantry Pride. Second place for the Pantry. Third place, Jack Schaefer Jr. and the U-15. So here are the numbers for the entire day. The Miss Budweiser, almost perfect with 1,100 out of a possible 1,200. Pantry Pride, second place money. The U-15, then the Miss Madison, the Holson Miss Madison, and the Miller American. Down to the winner's circle.
Wow, it's hot.
I was just going to say, that's the slowest I've seen you get out, Jim. It is warm, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of hot in there. The cool suit isn't quite doing its job. We're going to put another thermostat on and get it colder.
You gave us all quite a start and quite a thrill on the second turn of the first lap there. You were airborne, to say the least.
I don't know about a thrill, but it sure scared me when Miss Budweiser took a little dive in there. And the same thing happened to Heat before down the other turn, and it stalled me out. And I thought, oh, boy, here we're going to lose a whole race right here. But
well, I think we saw some fine driving because you had a less than healthy baby out there, it sounded like. You had to push the people around.
She was popping a little bit. But, you know, the guys, they did a superb job. And the team worked together, and the saltwater, we licked it again.
Victory number 17 for you, Jim. Victory number 57 for this guy, Bernie Little, who is now starting his 25th year in unlimited hydroplane racing. Bernie, comment?
Oh, yeah, Don, it's great. Needless to tell you, is what I needed, and I feel great. And Jim Kropfeld and Miss Budweiser and their crew are fantastic.
That's the best rehabilitation yet, isn't it?
That sure is.
Congrats, you guys.
This Bud's for Jimmy.
We'll be right back with a final comment after this.
Wow. Yeah.
A final comment from Miami. Jim Kropfeld, as we said, getting his 17th victory and doing it in fine fashion. He really looked good today, all day.
Yes, he did, except the one time where the engine had some compression stalls and he finished second to Todd Yelling. I think that the Pantry Pride, Jim Saddam's team, has to be elated. They were solid second place all day.
And they were gaining on the Budweiser near the end, you noticed.
Oh, less than 2 seconds between the checker flag falling on the Miss Budweiser and falling on Todd Yelling in the Pantry Pride. But let's not discount the other turbines that are coming on. We'll see in the next race the Pringles with, of course, Scotty Pierce. And we'll have the Miller American with Chip Anauer, who says it's not over till it's over. And don't forget the Steve Woomer's team with Steve Reynolds in the cockpit of the Cellular One. We got some thrilling racing coming up for you in 1987.
All right, from here we go on now to Evansville in a couple of weeks up into the great state of Indiana. We'll have that for you again. In the meantime, Jim Hendrick, I'm Don Poyer. Thanks for joining us in Miami.
Air transportation provided by Continental, the official airline of unlimited racing for the 1987 season. Video equipment provided by Risley's. Columbia Crest Winery brings you the 1987 Unlimited Hydroplane Series. Sponsored by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Household Finance Corporation, America's #1 financial services company. And by U-Haul International. Run it all at U-Haul Centers.